Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be another beauty Q&A video. Basically, rather than taking your questions from Twitter or Facebook as I'm creating this video, these questions that I'm answering come from videos I've already posted, and they could be questions that a lot of people asked or just really good questions that one person asked that I thought deserved to be mentioned and shared with a lot of people but didn't necessarily deserve their own video. So that's what you can expect in this video. I made one other before and asked you guys if you liked it. A lot of you guys did, and so I think it's going to become a regular series. So welcome to episode 2. Let's dive in. The first question came right around the time that I reviewed NYX's prismatic eyeshadows. I can link down below for that review, but essentially these are highly pigmented metallic eyeshadows, brand new from NYX, so of course they're super affordable. The question was how they stack up compared to the NARS dual intensity eyeshadows, and then I can't remember if this was in the same question, if somebody else asked it, or if I just made it up in my mind, but I want to say somebody asked for a comparison to the Makeup Geek foiled shadows as well. So that's what I'm going to compare all of these for you right now. First things first is that the NARS dual intensity eyeshadows are intended to be used either wet or dry. They are specifically formulated for you to be able to use them both ways, whereas the Makeup Geek foiled shadows and the prismatic eyeshadows aren't, or at least they don't say they are on the website. The appeal of being able to use a shadow both wet and dry, mainly in my eyes, is that used dry, the pigmentation is a little less intense, and then used wet, the pigmentation intensifies, and in some cases, specifically with these NARS dual intensity, the nature of the shade changes entirely. For instance, and I'm actually wearing all three of those, the NARS dual intensities, on my eyes today because I was inspired to bring them back out and do a look because they are amazing shadows, just to put that out there. But the shade that I'm talking about in particular is Cassiopeia. This is what I'm wearing on my inner corner, and it looks like a sheer white or white of some sort here in the pan. But it has this beautiful purple duochrome shift that when you foil it actually comes out as more of an opaque iridescent purple. So I foiled it and used that in my inner corner today. So while these are meant to be used both wet and dry, so you really get kind of almost two entirely different eyeshadows or two different finishes with one shadow, the same cannot be said for either the NYX or the Makeup Geek. But with both of those formulas, no foiling is needed in order to reach the maximum intensity. That's what's great, is that while it's a little bit harder to get a sheer wash using them, it can definitely be done, and it's no problem at all to really build them up to maximum intensity. So while whether you want to splurge on the NARS versus the Makeup Geek or the NYX is entirely up to you, but what I will say about the NARS is, one, obviously, I really love the formula, but also the shadows are very unique. Of the three that I have, one is relatively dupable. It's this black and plum that is Subra. That I am wearing kind of smoked out my outer corner and throughout my crease, not foiled. But then the other two that I absolutely couldn't replicate to save my life if I had to are Cassiopeia, that I just showed you that I'm wearing in my inner corner, and Callisto. And I have a review of these on the blog if you want to go check it out to really see these swatches up close. But that is what I would say the main difference is. Yes, these do carry a hefty price tag, but they do carry the unique shades and offer a little bit more versatility than, say, the NYX or Makeup Geek. So enough of that, let's move on to the next question. Speaking of foiling, I feel like I've already said the word at least 100 times in this video, but get ready for some more because the next question came on a tutorial where I used the Smashbox Double Exposure Palette. This is a palette that contains 14 eyeshadows that are specifically formulated to be used both wet and dry. Relatively unique for palettes out there these days. In that tutorial though, I used e.l.f.'s Makeup Lock and Seal. Although I wasn't showing it, this is the brush that comes with the palette. I would take this cap off and I'd put a drop or two on the actual brush. I'd run it in that powder and then apply. Very simple, no mess. But this also comes, the e.l.f. Lock and Seal also comes with a tiny little cup that you can put a few drops in, and if you're using a pigment, pick up some of your pigment and mix it in there before applying. That might be a little bit easier to work with pigments. But when I'm just working with shadows, I personally like to put it straight on the brush and then put the brush in the powder. I've heard some people recommend putting the mixing medium actually into the powder. I find that regardless of the powder formulation, even if it's meant to be used both wet and dry, putting my mixing medium directly into the powder completely ruins the texture. So if it works for you, definitely let me know your secrets below, but I would say stay away from that technique because it has never worked for me in the past. Stick with putting it on your brush. The next question, and I totally didn't realize there were this many foil related questions in this episode, but it'll go by super fast. It was actually on the most recent video that I did that I got this comment. It was just asking whether or not the Melt Cosmetics eyeshadows could be used both wet and dry. The website does not say they can, but they were asking to see if the intensity could be jacked up even more with these, although they are pretty bold without a mixing medium. But just in case you were wondering, no, they cannot. I was a beauty guinea pig and I put a little bit of that e.l.f. mixing medium on a brush, dabbed the brush inside, and it definitely changed the textures of these shadows. Good news is you don't need to foil these in order to get them as pigmented as you see them in the tutorial that I just posted or in the swatches that you see on the blog. They are fantastically pigmented without any mixing medium. And the last question, moving beyond eyeshadows and mixing mediums, is all about the lips. Somebody asked me to compare the Rimmel Provocalips, which I did a 60-second review on, and the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Last Lip Color. For starters, the Rimmel are about half the price of the L'Oreal, but both of them have a lip stain on one end and some sort of conditioning or shine adding element on the other. On the Provocalips end, it is a doe foot applicator that has, ironically, a liquid that I would say adds more of a balmy sheen, whereas the L'Oreal has kind of a stick balm applicator that produces more of a glossy sheen. Maybe it's just me, but that's what I found with the two. As far as the comfort with the stain goes, I'd say the two are very comparable. They don't add any nourishment or moisture to the lips, but they definitely don't dry them out to the extreme. I would say the biggest difference was in consistency. I think that the L'Oreal, at least the one shade that I have tried, which is Passionate Petal, is a little bit thicker than any of the Provocalips that I've tried from Rimmel. The consistency is a little bit thinner. Some shades, and this is one complaint that I had in that video, was that they came off a little too sheer, and that's not an issue that I've had with the L'Oreal, but a lot of you guys in that review told me that the deeper shades in the Provocalips are way more consistent when it comes to opacity, so that again is something to keep in mind. The last difference I would say between the two is the shade range. The L'Oreal has a ton. I think there are 24 shades in the L'Oreal line, whereas the Rimmel might have 8 to 10. So bottom line is, I'd say the two are very comparable, but for the minor differences I said, like the finish in whatever glossy kind of balm comes on the other end and the consistency of the stain. But for the most part, I found both lasting just as long on my lips and being just as comfortable. So first I would say default to the Rimmel because it is half the price. However, because of the limited shade range, if you don't find something that you really catches your eye in this line, definitely try the L'Oreal because both of these are fantastic lip stain gloss duos from the drugstore. So that's it for this beauty Q&A, guys. Thank you so much for watching and for submitting your questions. The fact that you watch my videos is unbelievable, but that you take the time to comment and ask questions and start a conversation is even better. Thank you so much again. Please don't forget, definitely ask your questions down below or on any video that you watch on this channel. I'm definitely looking for them and will definitely be sure to include them in a video. So thank you once again. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.